Welcome to Ground Zero, where we bring you the best of citizen journalism. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Terence. So, Amanda, what do you remember most about Singapore when you were growing up?
I remember the orange payphones at the coffee shops, the old school kind of stone playgrounds with the sand, instead of the modern plastic ones, and the non-air conditioned buses. All these seem to have disappeared now.
Yeah, well, Stomper Bigness sent in this entry about a Tamil movie. It had scenes from the Merlion and Toa Payoh satellite town shot in 60s Singapore. He or she said this movie brings back fond memories to Singaporeans. Let's take a look.
Well, very nostalgic indeed. I mean, I wasn't born in the 60s, but looking at this video reminds us of a time where life was much simpler.
Yeah, well, guess what Tu said? I miss the 60s when it was all still simple and easy.
While Stomper Woodsbury agrees. He or she said that Singapore has progressed and changed so much.
But there is one place in Singapore where time seems to have stopped in the 50s. Enter Kampong Buangkok, the last village in Singapore.
Well, according to Stomper Mr. X, who sent in this entry, the village was built in 1956 and it's been virtually unchanged since then. About 28 families still live in the kampong and pay about $13 in rent.
Wow, the rent sounds pretty cheap, no? But it seems like a good place to visit on weekends to get away from the stress of modern life.
Well, I agree, and I think it's a good way for us to see how it's like to live in a kampong. It's pretty interesting. The Stomper said that the houses look very rustic and very retro, and there were roosters and chickens running around the narrow stone paths that separated the houses from each other. I think it's certainly a sight that not many kids today have seen.
Yeah, well, if you're thinking about visiting Kampong Buangkok, Mr. X say there are available buses like bus 70, 103 and 854 that you can take from Yio Chu Kang Road.
While we're still walking down memory lane, take a look at pictures of these gadgets sent in by Stomper Retro. He said that he found these old school pages in his home while packing up his room and decided to share the pictures. Have you used one of these before?
No, I haven't, but I think my dad had one.
Well, I used to own a pager when I was in secondary school. It was one of the coolest gadgets to have back then. Whenever someone beeped you, you had to run to the nearest payphone to call back and find out what the page was for.
This entry had many Stompers laughing out loud. Old lady said, "Oh my god, I'm one of them Stomper Retro."
But I think it's amazing to see, how fast technology has developed over a span of just 10 to 20 years. When I was growing up, there was no computers, no internet. Now I can't even imagine life without a smartphone or an iPad.
Yeah, well, I think in 20 years, right, even the iPhone will be retro and nostalgic for youths in future generations.
True. And from the good old days, we look at youths who openly glorify gang affiliations on social media.
Find out more in the next clip.